Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Cloakshape Fighter and the White Cloak Fighter. Really, these are kind of one and the same as far as I'm concerned. Although in the book that we are grabbing everything out of and we're jumping back and forth, we do have some slightly different stats for this. So we'll kind of cover both of them at the same time. Um, and as we kind of jump on over here and we look at how everything's kind of written up. Um, this is Canon Legends here. We have a mechanic, Shug Nix, says I once had a guy that came looking for an original Cloakshape Fighter. I just laughed at him and said there's no such thing as an original Cloakshape Fighter. Um, so it's one of those things. These things are old. To look at it in that regards here. So the Cloakshape Fighter, or the CS Fighter, was a space and atmospheric fighter built by Kuat Systems Engineering decades before the Clone Wars. Um, Characteristics: these starfighters are not considered particularly agile or powerful when first introduced, but the reinforced hull made the vessel quite durable, and overall, they were generally considered adequate for their class. They had comparatively small power plants, which made them less than ideal for combat in deep space, but they performed competently, in planetary atmospheres and were thus considered best suited to a defensive role. The Cloak-shaped fighter's simple design, modular components, and universal adapters encourage modification, allowing them to be fitted with a variety of aftermarket systems. A skilled mechanic could remove and replace entire systems with ease. And by the time that the Battle of Yavin had occurred, it was widely considered impossible to find an original cloak-shaped fighter. Upgrades were commonly available to provide a stronger, more powerful generator, greater fuel storage, stronger weapons, and advanced sensors and targeting computers, and more powerful engines. Upgrades could even add completely new systems such as deflector shields, or convert the cockpit into an escape pod. In stock form, these fighters did not include a hyperdrive, which is why self-powered hyperdrive sled was a popular upgrade. The most popular addition to the cloak was the Cruich Engineering Rear Wing and Stabilizer Conversion Kit. It was so common that many assumed that the fighter originally came with the stabilizer, even with the improved handling and turning radius provided by this modification. However, the cloak shape still had its flaws, just like the Z-95 Headhunter. Its relatively slow sublight speed allowed heavy weapons, normally useless against a starfighter, to target the sluggish craft. By 10 ABY, they only they only cost about 15,000 credits. So it's kind of where we get a lot of this from. And this was all really kind of introduced by Wizards of the Coast and their taking on of the franchise from West End Games. So we have the Rykar Run, which is the original Link. So it was done as an online forum from Wizards.com way back when. Cloak of Deception, Blinking Eyes, Holes, Living Force, Mentioned Only, Star Wars 98, Volume 43 and 44, and so on. So this is really all a little bit newer stuff from when Wizards of the Coast had it back in the late 90s before they lost the license as well. Okay, so when we look at these, honestly, these are really the same ship. It's just different versions of different modifications. And for those that are just listening, we have a picture of them, and they both had that stabilizer wing on the back, which in the write-up states that that originally was not there. Okay, So they're both at 15 meters long. They both carry a single crew. Passengers on our Cloakshape compared to the White Cloak. There are no passengers on the Cloakshape, but the White Cloak does have one or two. Cargo capacity for the White Cloak is at 40 kilograms, and it's the same for the regular Cloakshape. So from here, we're just going to kind of go on the Cloakshape first, and then we'll pick up on the White Cloak. So it costs us 15,000 stock and used. Maneuverability of 1D plus 1, and that's where they were talking about it was a very sluggish craft. Had a speed of 6, and there again they said it was really slow, so it kind of fits. It does have an atmosphere speed of 950 kilometers an hour. Has a hull of 4D plus 2, keeping in line with what they had talked about. Has double laser cannons, and has a fire control of 1D plus 2, so it's a little trying to figure out exactly how to really say this. It's almost on par, but it's a little less effective than our standard. Typically, I say our standard is about a 2D. So it's a little under what our standard is. But this is also an older craft, so whatever systems or markings or however you were using to guide this up, maybe not the best here. And having a double laser cannon, it has a damage of 4D plus 2. Not really the best, but it still does pack somewhat of a punch. Has a dual concussion missile launcher, which has a fire control of 2D and does damage of 70, which is our standard for our concussion missiles. So to add to this, so this is without the fin. So our maneuverability is without the fin. Maneuvering fin costs an extra $5,000. Takes our maneuverability up to 2D plus 2 from a 1D plus 1. A hyperdrive sled, which costs another $15,000, gives us a ×3 hyperdrive, and uses an R1 unit for calculating our routes. So whatever that droid can hold in its memory for where you're going. It's not bad for upgrades to say, hey, yeah, well, we can upgrade this and we can make it into something a little bit better. All right, so then when we get to the White Cloak Fighter, which I'm going to guess this is alignment for the Jedi Order in the Old Republic. So this is the Jedi Order, their version of this ship. Okay, so passengers 1 or 2, which does kind of fit in line with the Jedi Order because you may have one pilot and then either 1 or 2 Jedis behind them, unless the Jedi themselves is a pilot. We have consumables of 2 weeks, where the other one only has consumables for 1 day, and I did not mention that. All right, cost is 150,000 brand new or 100,000 used. Has a hyperdrive of ×1.5. Uses the astromech droid, programmed with 10 jumps, so that's probably close to where we would be if we spent the $15,000 for the ×3 hyperdrive. Usually whenever we see that they're using an astromech droid, it's usually set for up to 10 jumps. And I've kind of talked about that in one of the last ones. Depending on how you want to run this, you could say that, when you're plotting out a course, every time it's got to jump to one system, turn, and then jump to the next one, that could almost be considered that. But I'd like to think of it as if you're going from Tatooine to Coruscant, that is one jump. It's figured all the turns and everything else you've got to do. I don't want to be that vicious, and really getting from place to place, I'm trying to skip over the bulk of that unless there's something in the quest line that I'm trying to throw out at them or something else here that I really want to kind of bugger them with. Just kind of thinking of it in that regard. All right. Maneuverability is 1D plus 2, so really their fin is not helping them compared to what the maneuverability fin is on the other one. So it gives it a space of 7, so they did upgrade the engines a little bit, and we have a 1,000 kilometers an hour in an atmospheric conditions. We have a hull of 4D plus 2, which is the same as what we have over here, but we do have shields. So it's only at a +2. So they're not very good. They are very rudimentary. And I didn't go over, actually, I didn't even see a sensor packet. So we don't have a sensor packet on the stock compared to here with the Jedi's. So passively, we can scan up to 2.5 kilometers. We can do an active scan up to 4 kilometers, a search of 6 kilometers, and a focus of 400 meters. So that's pretty decent, going from having nothing to being able to do this. Now we have 2 light laser cannons, fire linked at 4D damage, and we have 2 concussion missile launchers, which is doing 8D damage. And actually, I want to say that is probably more of a standard than our 70. Why that would be different? In my mind, they should be the same. A concussion missile is a concussion missile. It shouldn't change that. Not in my mind. So take that for what it is. I'm just saying, if you're using the same rocket by the same or it doesn't matter who's manufacturing it, but it's the same rocket for the same thing, it should all work, right? I don't know why it would be less on one than the other when it's the same thing. So, just looking at it in that regard, and that's my take on it. So, an interesting ship. Like I said, this was designed for the role-playing game when Wizards of the Coast had it. An interesting addition to everything that we have here. I think that when they were printing this, and this is all taking it from their web series or whatever, I think there's a couple things that need to be changed here. I think because we do see the picture here of our white Cloakshape having that stabilizer fin in the back, our maneuverability should be up more. I'm just throwing that in there. And I think the damage here should be up at 8D for the concussion missile, unless it's our standard is at a 7D. And I'm going to grab the old book here, and I have the source book. So let me just kind of see here and beat my head up against the wall and see what it says. Because I know it's got all that stuff in here, so why not take a peek at it? Equipment. We have housing personnel. This was always a nice thing about having the old book here. Okay, concussion missiles are 8D. So, yeah, it really should be at an 8D then. So there we are. Really, it should be at 8D for the base one. I don't know why they had it at 7. There again, whoever had written or had grabbed everything for this book, I think they were taking it from what West End Games had, or not West End Game, from what Wizards of the Coast had, and converted it back to West End Games, because Wizards of the Coast, in their divine wisdom, thinking that everyone was going to drop West End Games and then go to their system, and some of the other marketing ploys that they had at the time was buy our action figures, and then you can use them in your role playing game. And in the original box, they gave you a Wookiee action figure. That was the only way you got it, and it was to try and help get you to collect the action figures for playing the role playing game with the action figures. So it is a nice little ploy. I do applaud them for that. I do remember many years ago trying to do the same thing with G.I. Joe when I was getting into doing role playing and all that stuff, trying to use G.I. Joe guys as a kind of role playing game figures and all that stuff. So it's not that people probably haven't done that in the past. It's just an interesting thing. So here we are. Interesting ship. A wonderful design, actually. Especially, I like how it really looks. This looks like it was an active model a little bit more, but yeah, it's kind of CG done. The way the top model for our Cloakshape Fighter Really looks I don't think it was hand drawn. I think it's a little more CG-ish. Maybe I'm wrong. Knowing that at the time computer graphics really weren't as good as what we have today and all that, and this looks like an original. This is a nice drawing of what the ship could have been. Um, and of course, if the Jedi Order are using it, um, even in the Old Republic, they're going to have better text to make sure things are done a little bit better, kept up a little nicer, and all that. So, um, wonderful ship. Glad to be able to bring this to you. Hope you're still enjoying the series, and we'll see you in the next video.